Now, the surveyor is a person who will come and he will assess the claim, and it shall be done within 72 hours of the receipt of the information. If you are appointed as a surveyor, whatever might be the nature of case, you need to finish and send your report, your findings within 6 months. In case of delay, the insurer shall be liable to pay an interest at the rate of 2% above the bank rate prevalent from the beginning of the financial year. Good morning and welcome to the second session in Unit 5, Principles and Practice of General Insurance, where we are continuing with the settlement of claims, the claims procedure. So in the previous class, we were talking about what is the importance of the claims procedure and how do we do it. In this, we are going to talk about the normal claim process followed by the general insurance companies. So an insured or the claimant shall be given the notice to the insurer of any loss arising under contract for at the earliest in times which is extended or which is allowed by the insurer factor. So what happens here is that at the very beginning, when you are taking the insurance itself, we are going to give you a very clear-cut signal saying that in case if there is going to be a loss that is going to arise from the insurance factor, that is going to be already told to the insurance company. Which means to say that when I take a fire insurance, I am already alerting the company stating that in case if a fire breaks out, you have to compensate me back. What does this typically mean to the insurance company? It means to say that the contract is enabling the insured and the insurer into a position where the insurer, that is the company, has to get ready in case of emergency or exigencies. So we have already assumed and taken into account the very factor that yes, there is some challenge and we need to undergo that challenge. We have to face that challenge in terms of paying back the insurance. Now the next thing is that on the receipt of such communication, a general insurer shall respond immediately and give a clear indication to the insured on the procedures that he should follow. Now what happens is that nobody wants the business to face failures or any kind of exigencies, emergency situation. But then nothing is in our hands. It is always possible that you might land up into trouble because of some act of God or some act of nature or some other kind of factors altogether. Now let's say that now there is a fire that breaks out in your plant or in your factory altogether, and because of which you have lost the goods as well as the materials worth hundreds and thousands of rupees. Now what happens here is that you go ahead and claim the insurance with your insurance company and you say that this is the incident that has happened because of which I want to claim the insurance. So upon the receipt of the communication moment, you raise up to the company and say that, sir, because of an fire accident, because of this incident, I am raising the claim. The insurer, that is the company, will immediately communicate back to you telling you what are the steps that you need to follow in order to claim the insurance. Now, what is very important here is that in a general insurance company, they will appoint a person called as the surveyor. Now, the surveyor is a person who will come and he will assess the claim, and it shall be done within 72 hours of the receipt of the information. What do I mean by saying this here is that the surveyor is being appointed by the insurance company. He has to come, he has to see the location, he has to understand the situation. He will give a report back to the company stating that, sir, I have gone through the situation. These are the following factors which has led to the fire breakout in the given scenario. So because of which this insurance is being claimed. So this shall happen within 72 hours of the intimation altogether. So this is the first step that you need to follow in terms of claiming the insurance. Followed by when the insured is unable to furnish all the details or particulars required by the surveyor, where the surveyor does not receive the full cooperation of the insurer or the surveyor shall be writing in inform and send you that there might be a delay about the money that has to be sent because the assessment is not completed. Now, quite an understandable situation that we are talking about. In case you are not in a position to give the exact details about the incident, the exact situational analysis to the surveyor or to the company, then they will not be in a position to go forward and process your claims documentation. Now, what happens because of this? The company will delay in terms of making the payment to you. Automatically, the most important factor that comes here is that the question goes back to the point, what did you do when that situation arises? Why? Because when you were signing in for the documentation, you should have understood this factor clearly, that when we are doing an insurance factor, signing it all together, you should have gone through the terms and conditions. Plus, you should also understand that these are the documents that would be expected from you in case of any fallout. So, from the insured standpoint, from the person who has taken the insurance, the general insurance, he has to be very, very clear about the factor that whether he has understood that scenario, whether he has gone through all the documentation, whether he is ready to face for that claim process. So everything, when it is being done according to the stepwise, then the claims becomes an easier option. Followed by the surveyor shall be subjected to the code laid down by the authority while assessing the loss and shall communicate his findings to the company within 30 days of his appointment with the copy of the report being furnished to the insured if he desires. Now, what happens here is that, assuming that the surveyor is able to get the details, the process was very smooth enough in terms of understanding, then what he will do is that he will follow the principles that are laid down by the company, by the authority, that is by the IRDAI, the Insurance Regulatory Development Authority of India. So this particular organization shall lay down the principles that a surveyor has to follow, and the surveyor will take all those principles and go through the process. Once it is done, he shall communicate his findings to the company within 30 days of that incident after he has completed. Plus, he will also send a copy of his findings to the person who has taken the insurance. So this is the next step that happens in the normal claim process. Followed by wherein, suppose if there is a special circumstance of the case. Now, why? Because either of its complication in nature or the case itself is something unique, it's a first of its kind altogether, then in that scenario, the surveyor shall, under an intimation of the insured, ask for an extension. Many a times what happens in insurance is that there are several cases which are unique, which are happening for the first time. I don't have a ready-made solution for it. I do not know how to react in that situation. These rules might not be written by the IRDAI. What do I do then? Can I take my own judgment? Can I take my own decision? Absolutely not. So in that scenario, the surveyor will say that I need some more time to make my analysis complete. I shall take that time and I shall intimate back to the company stating that this is the analysis that we have done. This is what we have taken into account. Being a situation of this kind, of this nature altogether, then I am going going in for this. So that is why this becomes a very, very important factor altogether. So that extension is taken because you are not able to arrive at conclusion at the given point of time. If you are able to arrive at conclusion, if you are able to give me a complete report within a limited period of time, then I don't have to delay. But in case if there is an extension, then I might have to report back to the company and wait for the orders to get cleared. Followed by, in no case shall a survivor take more than 6 months from the date of his appointment to furnish the details. Very important. Why? Because can I keep prolonging this case for n number of time? The answer is no. The company says very clearly that if you are appointed as a surveyor, whatever might be the nature of case, you need to finish and send your report, your findings within 6 months. So if you are not furnishing it, that means somebody else will be appointed and the case has to be pursued at the earliest as far as possible. Upon the receipt of the survey report or the additional survey, the case might be taken within the period of 30 days to offer a settlement to the claim that has been asked for. Now, once the surveyor finishes his case, it doesn't mean that the money is immediately transferred. Now, it is in the hands of the insurance company who has to go through the procedure, the case, the formalities, the details, the documentation completely. Why? Because now the insurance company will take time. They will try to understand what has been going through the process. They will also make their assessment with the help of the underwriters. They will also see that what are the changes, what are the factors that we can ask for. So based on all these factors, they will be able to come to a conclusion and say very clearly what is the challenge here in terms of understanding the scenario. So once you are able to understand the scenario, once you are able to understand the situation altogether, then automatically the company will be able to do the processing and they will take within 30 days to settle the claim altogether. Followed by, if the insurer for any reasons to be recorded in writing or communicated to the insured decides to reject a claim under the policy, that also has to be done within 30 days of the receipt of the information altogether, plus an additional survey report as the case that might be required altogether here. Now, why this is very important for us? There are many times when the insurance company might feel that this is not coming under the coverage of the policy. This is not possible for the company because the company may run into loss. Or this is a scenario which is unique to them, not understandable, not taken into account, and this kind of factors, there are some mistakes from the insured person itself. So then what they will do is that they will say, we are not going to process this claim, you are not going to get any claim for this insurance. But then the time taken for the company to give this communication back to the insured person is less than 30 days. And if there might be any additional recordings, a report, evidence and factor, that also needs to be presented to the consumer at any given point of time. Why? Because for the insured person, it is very, very important now to see that whether all the documents that has been taken into account, whether the company has looked into all the formats before even giving up their decision altogether. So it's up to the company that they have to give all the evidence back so that he understands why the insurance was rejected. Now, on the receipt of such a communication, a general insurer shall respond immediately and will also give a clear indication to the insured on the procedures that he needs to follow. In case where there is a surveyor has been appointed for assessing a loss or claim, it shall be done within 72 hours of the receipt of intimation factor. Now, it is very, very clear here. Why? Because if you start understanding this factor, the assessment of loss or claim shall also be done within 72 hours, because the aim of the insurance company is clear. He has to respond and tell the person on an instant basis what are the reasons for rejection. When you talk about acceptance, you should also be ready to talk about rejection. Acceptance and rejections are two important features, because the customer will not wait for a very long time hoping that his money is going to come in next 10, 15, 20 days. The customer wants an immediate settlement on the insurance factor. So in that scenario, it's the duty of the company to go forward and start processing the claim as far as follows. So moment it has been done, they have to send the receipt of communication stating why it has been rejected and what are the grounds altogether. Now, when the insured is unable to furnish all particulars required by the survivor, and when the survivor does not receive full cooperation, then automatically he shall inform the company stating that since I have not been able to get the necessary information, I have not been able to get the necessary details altogether, I shall not be able to process this claim. There shall be definitely a delay on the claim as far as possible. Now, the next thing is that the surveyor shall be subjected to the code laid down. So whatever that's going to be communicated has to be done within that 30 days. Now, in any special circumstances, as I have told, there is going to be an extension which the person is going to ask, and it has to be done within that limited time factor. In no case, there shall not be any factor exceeding that 6 months as we have told, and in any point of time, if there is going to be any extension factors, we are going to completely reject that and we will go in for a new surveyor altogether. If, for example, any return communication, I'm bringing back this point. Why? Because in case if there is any additional factors that has to be written, it has to be projected and it has to be told back to the consumer. Now, upon the acceptance, the payment shall be done. Once it is being done within 7 days from the date of acceptance, the payment shall be processed and shall be sent to the insured. Now, that is how we will take the procedure in terms of making up the payment. Now, in case of delay, the insurer shall be liable to pay an interest at the rate of 2% above the bank rate prevalent from the beginning of the financial year. So, suppose the bank is offering 10% interest, the insurer has to pay 12% interest as a penalty because he has delayed but making the payment, making the claim, which will affect the business of that person. So, there will be a penalty of 2% which he has to take into account and make the payment. With this, I come to the end of this particular session. I hope and believe that all the information shared through this particular session will be of a great help and resource to you. In the upcoming sessions, we shall learn more about the insurance procedures and policies. But until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.